Welcome to Inside the Blueprint, where we explore what it really takes to turn change into impact. I am Carl Manlan, and today we are talking about transitions, not just physical ones, but personal and professional reinventions.
And I'm Claire, your co-host. You've probably seen before and after photos online, but there's always a lot that happens in between. Today's guest doesn't just focus on fitness. He helps people build discipline, identity, and a change for mindset.
Wesley Depass is a fitness coach and body transformation specialist based here in the UAE. But before that, he was on a very different path. His journey from competitive athlete to coach is full of powerful lessons. This episode isn't about nutrition tips. It's about what happens when you outgrow one version of yourself and choose to rebuild. Well, Wesley, welcome to Blueprint.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Before we start, if this podcast resonates with you, hit subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear it.
Every listen keeps us having these conversations across generations about things that really matter.
We are building something meaningful here, and we are glad you are part of it.
All right, let's get into it.
There was a life before being a coach. Tell us about it.
My journey to where I am now has been a long and varied and very winding and twisting path. Partly because I never really knew what I wanted to do. So as a child, it was always kind of education. So I went to uni, got my degree, and then the question was, what do I do after that? I found myself in finance. I was an accountant working in insolvency, going into companies and dealing with the shutdown and the fallout of companies failing. So quite a negative aspect in terms of if I'm coming into your company, things have gone wrong. Okay. And then I moved across here to Dubai to do something very similar. Business restructuring, very similar, very dry, very, how can I say? It wasn't inspiring. It was very uninspiring. So it was very uninspiring. I used to wake up every morning and dread the idea of going into work. I'd come all this way, done all these qualifications, but there was no passion behind it. There was no reason for me to get up other than, this is a job, this is what I do. And I'd always trained. I'd always tried to be healthy. Fitness and training had kind of been instilled in me by my father, who was in the British Army and then played cricket for years. So he'd always been up and active. So I'd always kind of followed that and stayed active. So after many, many months, even years, you could say, of waking up and not feeling happy, the joy to get up and go to work and to live out your day, I decided that it was time that I had to make a change.
So then that change was led because you're ready, like how did you know that you wanted to become a fitness coach?
So I knew that I loved fitness and the health aspect of it, wanting people to be, wanting myself to be as strong or as fit or as healthy as possible. So I've always known that. I've always been involved in sports and in and around the gym. What led me to leave my corporate life was, like I said, there's only so many times so many days you can wake up and not want to go to your place of work. Like you wake up and it's a case of you're going to do things you don't enjoy, that don't inspire you, with people who you don't necessarily like, or you don't necessarily respect, or they don't respect you. And it's a kind of, for me, it got to the point where I felt like I was destined to do more. Okay. And the actual change was, as I said, I'd always been in and around the gym. I was training at the time, and I made friends, networked with people who were currently coaches. So I spoke to them about what's it like to be a coach here in Dubai? What's it like in terms of obviously an income, because you've got to be realistic. Yes, I was earning a wage and a good wage where I was, but if I'm going to leave that security, I need to also pay bills, have food on the table, this kind of stuff. So there's a question of how do you transition from the corporate life into a coach, and what's the process to do that in Dubai, and what's it like working as a coach? So the guys I was training with, they helped me a lot in terms of contacts in the industry, how to set yourself up to get yourself properly registered, to get yourself the proper insurance, visas and medicals and all this kind of stuff. And haven't looked back.
How many years ago was that?
It was 10 years ago now.
10 years ago.
10 years ago. So yeah, I finished uni like 21, 22, studied law, then became an accountant, and it was accounting until about 32. So 10, and about another 10 years, I guess. And then here I am now, 42, almost 3.
What was the easiest part of walking away? And as you're thinking about it, what was the hardest part?
The hardest part's easy to answer, in that you're leaving a role that is safe and secure. I was working for a large consulting firm. There was regular work, regular pay, like there was security there. That's not going to go anywhere. You come in, you perform, you do what you're asked to do, and at the end of the month, you'll get your paycheck. But you won't get any intrinsic benefit from that. You won't get any joy or any satisfaction. So that was that was simple, or the hardest part to leave. The easiest or the biggest benefit of leaving was the fact that I just wanted satisfaction in what I was doing. It's a soulless existence. You kind of just existing day to day, just to wake up, go to work, and do something you don't really want to do, to come home, to then wake up and do it again. The idea of helping people find the joy that I find in training, but also find within themselves, or to do things that they didn't think they were able to do, and to get them to go from a position of being unhealthy or weaker or whatever it was, to a position where they're now healthier or they're stronger, just by pushing them and coaching them and guiding them. The idea of doing that rather than my soulless day-to-day, that was the main driver, to be honest with you.
What's one thing out of the 10 years you've been coaching that you've learned?
I've learned many, many things. I guess the most important thing is that everybody who I work with, they come to me for a reason. And everybody's reason is different. Whether that is to be stronger because they want to lift in a powerlifting competition, or whether they've been to the doctors and the doctor said, if you don't change X, Y, or Z, you're going to be at the risk of a heart attack or whatever else. So they've come to me to improve their health. Or they're entering a particular fitness competition, or whatever their reason is. It may just be, you know what, I'm going to get married in 3 months. I want to look fantastic in my dress. What I've learned is everybody has their own goal, but everybody is or has to be dealt with in a very different way. There is no one fits all. So Carl, working with you is very different to how I work with anyone else, because you come with your own goals, your own problems, your own ideologies, let's say, in terms of how you want to do things. And it's a case of working with an individual and meeting them halfway. That's what I've learned. That's the one thing that's most important.
So what if I then argue that what you did for the 10 years before is very similar. Because you were going into companies that were basically either bankrupt.
Yeah.
Or had to be restructured.
Yes.
You did 10 years of that.
Yes.
And at some point you decide, okay, you know what, I hate this.
Yes.
But I'm happy to take bankrupt bodies and restructure them.
I've never heard it explained or visualized like that, but in a way, it's very true. The difference here is that with a corporation, by definition, is quite soulless. It's an entity.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the value what I gain from what I do is seeing an individual who has a soul, who has a personality, who has a mind and an opinion, is intelligent, going from a position where, not that they're helpless, but that they need help, and taking them from that position and watching them grow and flourish, and to reach a point where, like I said, they may not have ever thought they were possible of reaching. So I agree.
I can still see the analogy.
The analogy is there, but the difference with the corporate life was that I would go into a company and 9 times out of 10, I would shut it down and sell the assets. So it wasn't a case of I'm rebuilding the company. It was, we're going to take over the running of the company and then get rid of it. We'll take our fees and take a little bit for the creditors.
But you gave the people that left an opportunity to rebuild themselves. You never saw that part of the story.
True.
But it's there. So there's a continuum. I think you just change, or maybe you added the soul element to what you're doing, because you also have instances of people that you gave up on. Yes, no, maybe?
Yes. Part of being a coach is that you have to be aware that you can't help everyone. And even if people come to you for help, they may not themselves be ready to accept that help.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not easy to change. It's not easy. It's every single day you need to make hundreds of different decisions that go against what you've been doing for the past 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Sure.
So sometimes, you have to tell people, now is not the right time. This isn't going to work. So yeah, you're correct. I have had to give up, but people have also given up on me and given up on themselves. Sometimes it's just not possible to help everyone. Claire, you were with me a couple of weekends ago.
Yeah.
In the retreat that we ran. Was that your first experience of kind of being in a gym setting and doing that kind of training?
Yeah, I'd say so. Like, I don't think I've ever done a kind of thing like that before me. Sometimes on holidays we go to the gym, but like I don't really do that. What we did there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you find it?
Well, I found it fun because I mean it's something I never did before, so I found it fun. And yeah, I like how we had like different stations and you would rotate, and yeah.
What was your? I'm throwing questions at you now. What was your favorite part of the whole weekend? Not necessarily the training, because obviously we did lots of different things involved around physical fitness, but also mental fitness or well-being. What was your favorite part?
Well, I think maybe one of my favorite things was when we did the yoga in the morning.
Okay, cool.
I like that.
And I got one more question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Will you now continue to try and put some kind of yoga or stretching and strength training in your very busy routine?
I think I should. I mean, it's not for stretching. It's important to stretch. Because usually, like, if you do, like, a sport, you do stretching before you start, but, like, you usually don't do it afterwards. So it's important to stretch after as well. So,
It's true, Carl. Are you hearing this message on stretching?
I am hearing the message. And
You-
the pain that comes with it is the mental block, you know? So I'm not prepared to restructure that part of the equation for now. You know, it's been there's progress, I would say.
Okay, good.
But I think my brain is still stuck on the pain that it generates when I do. So I know what. I think I'll leave a little bit longer of that. But I know that it's important. No doubt about it. That stretching, I mean, we do a lot of things to stretch our mind.
True.
To use that same analogy, but the stretching of the muscles seems to come sort of counter to the activity, because you sort of push yourself, and how you need to slow down and sort of allow that moment to just allow the muscles that you don't see, so that invisible structure to basically start to regenerate as a process. But no, when you don't see it, you sort of say, you know what, let me get on with life.
Yeah, I mean, there is no visible, let's say, benefit to doing the stretching work or the mobility work, but there is very much a physical benefit in that it's very important to be strong. I will always preach, be as strong as you possibly can. We can go into the reasons why, but for now, just be as strong as you possibly can. But also, you want to have a certain amount of flexibility and mobility within that strength. Mainly because as you age, as you spend more time in a modern life where you are kind of sat down, or you're on your phone, or you're hunched over a laptop, you start to kind of slowly seize up. So for now, at the moment, Claire, she's nice and flexible. But in 20 years, she may not be so flexible.
But she's building the habit.
Correct.
And I think that's a reality. Like, for a certain period of our life, we're active, there's school, there's sports, and then
You stop.
yes,
When you finish school, you just stop. Like, so you do like school sports, like your whole life, and then when you leave school, you stop.
maybe some at university, it's not guaranteed, depending on what you study, what you do. And then, so it's a habit in a way. You mentioned about the father that you could see that was doing it. So it was part of a habit that you formed growing up as a child. It's not a habit that I formed, and we sort of trying to make sure that they form that habit earlier than we did. And it's different times.
Yeah. A large part of what I do when I work with my clients is about habits, because I think I actually gave you one of the books, Atomic Habits.
Correct.
What I'm trying to do in my role as a coach is, as I said, take you from A to Z. But there are many different steps and stages along that way. I can't just chuck everything at you on day one, because it's going to overwhelm you. You're just going to be like, I can't do this. So it's about building the essential habits. It doesn't need to be anything crazy. So, for example, we'll go back to stretching. Wake up in the morning, have a glass of water, because most people are like, well, you're going to wake up dehydrated. And most people don't get enough water throughout the day. And then take 5 minutes to do a very simple stretching routine. Just those two things every day will improve your life or your standard of living. And then it's the case, once you've got that locked, you then build on it. You add something else, take some supplements, go to the gym, go for a walk, or whatever that person's specific needs and requirements are. Every day, build on habits, bit by bit.
So what does success look like today for you? Because success previously was recouping as many assets as possible, value them at a certain point, and sort of dispose off.
Correct. So success in my job was literally that. It was a case of shut down a company, sell the assets, recoup as much money as you can to cover your costs, and then to distribute to creditors. My success in my personal life at that point was because I found no joy in what I was doing. There was no purpose in it. It was just a day-to-day I'm going to work because you're supposed to go to work. Now, success for me is the changing of people's lifestyles, or their lives, not just their lifestyle, their life. Success for me is changing people's lives. And as I said, it doesn't have to be a huge change. But success for me is every day I want to make somebody's life a little bit better. Whether that's somebody I coach, who I'm seeing on a one-to-one, whether that's someone who's asked me a question in my coaching group or online, or they've just seen some of my content, or they've asked me something as I'm out and about, because often people ask me, oh, do you go to the gym? Are you a trainer? And just ask me questions about health and nutrition or anything. Success for me is improving people's lives.
That sounds like a politician.
It was it went everywhere but nowhere.
No, not that. Improving lives. That's what politicians also say, that's what they want to do. So as a coach, but what does this mean in practice?
Yeah.
In practice, what does this mean? Because the measure is, yes, the person is stronger. You see them at the gym. You can see in terms of a habit that they're changing what they're eating. Their mind is clearer. They do all these things. Some of it is intangible. And it's built on the trust that you built with a person to share and to accept that there will be moments of failure.
This is very true in terms of failure, because we are all human, we're not robots. So I will ask you to do things. You will try your best to do them. Sometimes you may not be able to, whether that's an eating protocol or even in the gym. I've had clients fail and be really frustrated with themselves because they fail, because they don't like to fail. They're people who succeed all the time and they don't like to fail, and they really beat themselves up about it. So it's a case of, when it comes to failure, explaining to people that if there's one place that you can fail, the gym is the place to fail. Because failure in the gym is going to make you stronger. The best way to get stronger and to progress in the gym is to train as close to failure as you can without necessarily failing. So if you are failing, just means you've gone ever so slightly too far. You'll then pull it back the next week, and then you'll try that same weight or exercise again, and then you should, in theory, be progressing and be able to pass that weight. So when it comes to failure, yes, for sure. You asked me what does success actually mean. As I said, it's for everyone. It's every individual I work with it's different, but they will all come to me with a goal in mind. And for me, success will be, so for example, somebody may come to me, they've been to the doctors have said, if you don't improve these health markers, you're going to have to take a medication to prevent you from getting diabetes or whatever it is. My success in that case would be to work with them on their training, their fitness, their nutrition, and their day-to-day habits, to make sure that when they next go back to the doctors in 3 months or 6 months, those markers will have changed. And those markers will no longer now show they're at risk for whatever illness it was. The doctor will be like, oh, this is great. You've reduced your levels. Fantastic. You're no longer pre-diabetic or whatever it was. So in that instance, that would be success for me. Carl, I'll ask you a question. It's no secret, I coach you.
Yep.
How have you found the coaching process? Like, what did you, if I can ask, what did you expect you would get, and how was that differed, if at all, to what you received?
So it's, number one, is structure. Because it's not that I was not exercising. For me, the idea of going into a gym never really crossed my mind. It's like, I like to do things where I have time to think. So a long walk for me was perfect. And my younger brother has always been reminding me that it's important to lift weights. And I was like, whatever. It's really... And then being into it and learning that routine of training your muscles to learn to be stronger has been interesting, because then you realize that it's also a mindset element. Your mind needs to be able to be willing to get close to failure and say, okay, it is not impossible, but I'm not ready. I mean, that has been an interesting exercise, looking at sort of my own personal journey and getting to a place where you accept that you are not ready to take that additional step now. You accept that you don't know, and that someone else has the skills and competencies to teach you. Is that element of accepting that, okay, this is not my specialty, so let me see. Then you start to see the results, and the results can come in different form. You kind of go back to the doctor, and then what was red start to be limited to just one red indicator. So suddenly you say, okay, I've changed my nutrition, I've changed the type of exercise that I do, I'm spending more time in the gym, and this is what the results are saying. Whereas before, I would do probably more in terms of activity, but it wasn't targeted. And that's a difference. So if you bring it back to the professional space, the personal space, is how do you use your energy? And that to me was the most important thing, that, okay, I can get the same result with using less energy, but with a level of intensity that my body is starting to get used to. And then, of course, the extra benefits of fitting better in the clothes and all this kind of stuff. But ultimately, is a clarity that it brings results. And simple things. When something falls on the floor, I'm very comfortable to go and pick it up. Whereas before, I look at it as, okay, you know what?
You could say that. Claire, get this.
Exactly. And that is actually, it's a power, because your mind, and earlier we're talking about the stretching, there's still a block in my head because of the pain that it triggers. So it's how do I start to train my brain that this pain will go away? Eventually to go away. But for this pain to go away, there is a discipline of repeating the exercise. I'll get there eventually for the stretching.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be a period of, with the stretching, definitely a period of lots of pain before before it will disappear. That's for sure.
What would be what would you hope, what would be a message you want, like, people that you've trained to remember you?
What would I want people I've worked with to remember me by, or to, when they think of me, what come to their minds? I'd want them to believe that they could do more than they're currently doing. That's what I want them to believe. So I'm always in the gym with clients. They're telling me I can't do any more reps. I can't lift this weight. I can't carry this, or I can't do another, whatever the exercise is.
That's not me.
Sorry, I looked at you because you're, not because it's you. You're willing and able and accepting of everything. But it's often a case that I have to then be like, listen, you can do this. Just try it. Give me 2 more reps. Give me 1 more set, whatever it is. So in times of trouble or hardship, or when they're facing a challenge, I want them to remember me telling them that you can do this.
Okay.
But Carl, you don't need that. That's
no. But it's, the analogies to me are interesting, because outside of a gym, outside of a fitness element, there is achieving a goal. That really what it is. So if I go to the first 10 years of your life, there was a goal that missed something. This 10 years, you found that missing element in different forms of sort of, okay, this person have achieved the goal, or they're so close to achieve the goal, then they stop. So what do you see then as failure?
As failure, in a professional sense, failure.
Yeah, in your tenure now, not the previous tenure, this current tenure of
This 10 years,
being a coach.
Even though I know I can't help everybody that I work with, I am quite hard on myself if I have failed somebody. When I say fail somebody, if I haven't been able to help them. It happens occasionally. Like I said, if people aren't ready to change, or maybe my style of coaching isn't for them, and that's something I have to accept that it's okay. I can't work with everybody, but that for me is what I see as failure. Like my goal is to improve people's lives. If I'm not able to improve your life in some way, shape, or form, then I've failed.
So how do you deal with that failure?
I speak to my wife.
That's a good start.
Talking is good. And just so talking is a good way to deal with any failure. So when it comes to the failure that I've just mentioned, talking about it with friends or loved ones and explaining, listen, I tried to do X, Y, and Z, but it didn't work, and they have walked away from the coaching, or they're not seeing the that loss that they want to see. And then kind of being, I guess, reassured that, you know what, you've got so many other clients that you are helping. You've got so many methods that you tried with this person. You've bent over backwards for them. You've done everything you could possibly do. And sometimes you just can't help everybody. But the winner in me, or the competitive person in me, wants to, even though I know I can't help everyone, I want to. So beyond talking, you just got to deal with it.
No,
you just got to deal with it.
So maybe that was the difference in the first 10.
Maybe. I see.
Because there isn't that piece of feedback. The people are out of a company. You're just looking at the books, the numbers, make them work, find somebody willing to buy. It's a transaction. Done.
Yeah.
Here, you have to deal with a full set of emotions and drama and no drama that the person is going through in their own life. So coaching is not just physical. I think we haven't touched it in this part. So how do you deal with the whole? No, let's leave lifting of weight and also, and that piece of individual that the intention is to change, but maybe there is zero intention to change. And you probably know this from the beginning, but you still say, okay, maybe I'll help.
Yeah. You're right. A huge part of what I need to do and what I try to do, and for a huge part of me being successful in what I do, is that people need to change their mindsets. They have to change their mind. It's difficult to get somebody to change their mind. Most people, because the people I work with are usually already 35 plus. They're already well established in their careers, in their opinions, their values. So it's hard to unwire and to untangle all of that baggage that they come with. But again, what I work on and what I have to try and do is to start from the basics. As I said, I can't give someone everything to do on day one. I have to work on the simple things that will make the most change in the very beginning. And then the person might see a bit of change, and then they might buy in. And then they'll be like, okay, maybe this guy knows what he's talking about. I should listen to what he's saying. If he's telling me to eat less nuts, or use less olive oil, or go for a walk after I have had a meal, like a quick 10-minute walk, maybe he knows what he's talking about, because in these first 2 weeks, I've changed, I don't know, I've changed fizzy drinks for sugar-free diet drinks, and I've lost 2 kgs tapped in. So it's about picking the things that will be most effective and most efficient in the beginning, and getting somebody to get that buy-in, and then building on it bit by bit by bit by bit. There will often be days where things aren't going well, so people come to me with their problems, and then it's a case of working with that person around those problems. I'm not a therapist. People talk to me sometimes as if I am a therapist. For me, it's just a case of, I want to make your day better.
What can someone do like this week to change their mindset about not only fitness, but like how they eat and stuff like that?
3 simple things that everybody should do. And then if they're not doing, they could do these things every day, and they would see benefits, improvements in their life. 1, sleep. Sleep is key. People underestimate the benefits of sleep. So get 7 to 9 hours of sleep where you can. And when I say sleep, I mean you go to bed, no distractions, no, you're not on your phone, go to sleep. Well, I see you smiling, Nick.
I'm trying not to look at my dad.
I promise you didn't pay me to say that. Sleep is 1, for sure. A second top tip, hydration. I would say most people are dehydrated, and when they think they are hungry, they're usually probably just thirsty. And if you are at a point where you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. So I would say drink 2.5, 3 liters of water, especially in this region. And the third one is movement. Move. Take 10 minutes out of your day to stretch. Carl. Try and get, people say 10,000 steps, but you don't need to get 10,000. Just move. Make movement part of your day, whether that's walking a little further, parking away from the entrance to the mall and walking a little further, walking up your stairs, or just getting up and going for a 5-10 minute walk at various points throughout the day. Those 3 things: sleep, hydration, and movement. Do those and your life will improve.
Are you doing it? Okay.
Carl, are you doing it?
Sleeping is a problem
Mm-hmm.
because I think my mind is too busy with many things that I do. I'm busy with different aspects that sort of keep me grounded. I think that's the element. And as I was listening to you, I wondered if you started your life in social impact, would you have found that fulfillment and not quit to do what you're doing now?
Yes, I think I would. Yes, I would not have quit. As in, I like changing people's lives, and I obviously do that through health and fitness and improving the person as a whole. But social impact is also something that's very important to me, in that my father is involved in social impact and has been for years, in terms of racism and race awareness and racial equality and all of that kind of stuff. So very much so, that would have been a very fulfilling way to have gone about my life.
I can relate. I mean, I studied finance and economics, and then I started working in health. And even if I've been in private sector setting for the past 9 years, my work still has an element of improving lives beyond the sort of financials. And I think that's what keeps me going. Only one aspect of it would have been difficult. So I think I can relate to, will I become a coach? Probably not fitness coach, No, you have to be realistic.
You do. That's what.
But other kind of coaches,
There are many
other coaching, that probably will fit. In a way, we do some of it. We start doing it at home with our own children, in terms of trying to give some guidance without necessarily forcing them into a specific box. And I think our generation, we were told that for you to be successful, these are the professions that you need to get into.
Correct.
I should have become a banker because that was the definition of success that was put forward to me. But the reality is that finance and accounting were two subjects that my head could not get around. Maybe that's why I married an accountant. But I failed accounting 1A, 1B. I failed finance 1. You know what? It's just not going to be possible. And I think that helped me. So failing early at university helped me redirect, with the blessing of my mother then, to something that made sense to what really excites me, which was around political economy of societies.
Yeah, the failing early part is interesting because I guess I didn't fail because I just kept passing my exams. And therefore I just kept going further and further down a line, down a path that didn't inspire me. I didn't enjoy, that I found no real pleasure from or purpose. Until I had to finally, say enough is enough. But had I failed early, then I imagine I would have been doing something similar to what I'm doing now, but much earlier. Claire, do you have any idea what you want to do?
Well, I've said this before, but it's not that I know for sure. Obviously, it will change. And this is just like an idea of something I could do, like interior designing. I love the idea of that.
Okay.
Yeah, because I love creativity. I think I'm a creative person.
You are.
And
100%.
And like, for example, at school we can you pick a couple of classes that in your schedule that you can decide on them. And last year and this year I did art. And I love doing art. And we're doing for example, now in art we're doing clay. Like we went to the clay room and we made these slabs, and now we're doing mosaics with it. And so yeah.
Okay.
Now.
Interior design.
Yeah.
Nice.
But someone reminded us, I don't know, who did we meet that was talking about interior design? He says, actually, if you think about interior design, it's a very powerful, Lara, that we had on the podcast, on how you get to decide what goes in. And that's a powerful choice. Well, we'll see. Maybe that's my something I need to expose you to, interior designers. So if you know any interior designers,
I do.
We actually have one soon in the podcast. So, but if you're any interior designers, I think it would be good for Claire to go to the studio and see what they're doing.
I do.
Imagine you are 13.
Yeah.
And you're listening to your parents, and now, of course, this is hindsight. What was the sort of advice that they gave you that stayed with you to this day, even when you made your transitions from what success in their eyes was, I think, to this sort of transition? And at that point, when you told them that, okay, this is it, the path to partner is straight ahead, but you know what? I'm getting off that bus.
It's an interesting question because I'm not sure that I was given a specific piece of advice. it was more just a case of, as long as you are happy and okay, then do whatever you're doing. Or they wanted a particular professionalism, but they also trusted me in my judgments. So what stays with me, I guess, is just ultimately choose something that you feel good doing. In whatever you're doing, whether that's in a personal life or professional life, ultimately choose something that you feel good within yourself doing. And going back to when I left the corporate world, I told them I was leaving, and they kind of asked me, like, are you sure? Like, have you thought this through? And I was like, but then again, they trusted me. So I explained to them, yeah, I'm not someone who makes like a snap decision. I research things. I look at things from every angle. So I told them and explained to them, I've already spoken to a few trainers. I know how much they earn. I've got contacts I can join, and they'll get me clients. And then everything has been planned out so that when I left the corporate world, I pretty much was able to go straight into the coaching world without too much turmoil.
This is cool. Turmoil. You know what turmoil means? No?
Turmoil. How would I describe it? Trouble, difficulty, hardship. So yeah, like the opposite of turmoil would be. It was easy, peaceful.
So we almost at the end. Anything that you would have done differently? It's hindsight, of course, is easy, but anything you would have done differently?
Probably, yes. So in one aspect, I want to say, no, there's nothing I would have done differently because I like where I am now. And I always stand by that not that everything happens for a reason, but that you are where you are for a reason. And if you change things and go back, you won't be where you are now. And I'm like where I am now. I'm very happy where I am now. If I were to go back and say, young Wes, what do you want to do? Or what should you do? I would definitely think longer and harder about what I actually wanted to do from the day to day. So rather than just going to university to study law because it's a good degree to have, and then falling into a job doing accounting because it was a job that needed a law degree and maths, and it worked well for what you had done previously. Ask yourself, do you actually enjoy this? Do you actually want to do this? Why are you doing this? As opposed to just going to work. Would I end up where I am now? I don't know.
We don't know.
But that's what I would have potentially changed.
The analogy that I often use is that you are on a bus.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know your stop and the direction. Because if you know the stop, then you can get off and get on the next bus. And I was reading somewhere, I think it might be Japanese proverb, or maybe Chinese, I'm not too sure. If you get on a train and you realize that you're going in the wrong direction, you get off at the next stop. Because the longer you wait, the more expensive it's going to sort of go back.
That's very true.
Something like that. So it took you 10 years.
So it could have worked. It could have been 15. To be 10 years.
But again, as I said to you, you only change the kind of thing that you restructure.
As I said, I've never heard it like that, but it's an interesting.
And that's so you did not really change what you do. You continue to do the thing that you do. You just added the soul element that you said was missing.
Yeah.
That's how I summarize your transition.
I'm going to take that, Carl, if I can.
Sure. I think that's part of is having these conversations. I mean, when Claire and I were discussing why this is important, it was really about bringing her into conversation that I will be having
Yeah.
people that I know. But her learning and listening and participating in this conversation is the exposure. So that down the line, when she faces that question, she has some elements, some blueprints.
Yes.
Of how to navigate and make those decisions. So that's why we're here.
I think having you as a father, though, she has a very wise, a very powerful, a very caring role model and guide.
Thank you.
No, massively. I obviously before I met you, I'd heard a lot about you from Malak. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And she sings your praises all the time. And she I remember she said to me, "You know what? When I grow up, I wish I could be just like Carl." Yeah, she's a very big fan, but for good reason.
Thank you.
Good reason.
Any last questions? Any last comment? It doesn't have to be a question. Any questions for me? Maybe I have a question for you. Will you do these 3 things?
What were the 3 things?
Sleep, hydration, and movement.
Okay. Good. Carl, will you do the 3 things?
We'll do it together. Not very convinced. Thank you, Wesley.
Carl is
making time. Very nice chatting to you. And I'm on that journey. And the habits have changed, but I have to continue.
Yeah, it's an everyday thing. It's literally a lifetime, a lifestyle. It's, yeah.
Cool.
Making your life better. Claire, thank you very much.
Very cool. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Inside the Blueprint. We hope this conversation gave you something new to think about.
If you enjoyed these episodes, there's more where that came from. Tap on videos to catch other episodes. Each one explores a different part of a bigger picture.
A new episode drops next week, so hit that subscribe button and we'll see you soon.
And until then, keep building, learning, and asking better questions.
Bye.